Just 1 minute ago, Nigel Farage dropped a line that left everyone in Westminster uneasy. There's more going on here than anyone is admitting. His calm voice hinted at something far darker than the headlines suggest, and he made it clear that Prime Minister Keir Starmer is at the centre of it. Starmer's reaction: a brief tightening of his jaw, a shift in his seat, enough to show he felt the weight of the accusation. Farage has spoken directly to survivors of the National Abuse Inquiry, and what he's revealing isn't just uncomfortable. It's a warning about deep government failures that have been quietly ignored for years. For months, promises were made. Inquiries were announced, yet nothing concrete happened, and now Farage is calling out exactly what's gone wrong, exposing the cracks in a system that should have protected the most vulnerable. By the end of this video, you'll see why this isn't just political drama. It's a fight for accountability and justice that could shake the country. The National Child Safety Investigation was supposed to fix the problem, an official way to hear survivors and hold institutions accountable. Instead, it's become a scene of confusion and conflict. Survivors on the advisory panel have resigned, citing secrecy, intimidation and a toxic environment. Key appointments have fallen through and the government's messaging is unravelling. Farage highlights that these failures aren't just bureaucratic, they're political, and they show a system more focused on optics than on justice. Meanwhile, Starmer continues to insist the inquiry is laser-focused, but the visible tension and public criticism tell a very different story. The cracks in leadership are showing, and the longer this goes unresolved, the more the public notices. Eliane Reynolds, one of the resigned panel members, speaks out. She describes the inquiry as controlled, secretive and unsafe, where survivors were discouraged from communicating with each other or even their families. Farage brings her onto the discussion, letting her explain how the environment stifled truth, not healing. She points out that talking about the ethnicity or background of perpetrators was treated as taboo, adding another layer of frustration and distrust. The government insists the inquiry is fair, but the survivors' accounts paint a different picture, one of manipulation and dismissal. Starmer's attempts to defend the process only add fuel to the fire as public anger begins to mount. Nigel Farage shifts the focus sharply onto the government. He highlights the repeated resignations, the withdrawal of candidates like Jim Gamble, and the slow-moving bureaucracy that has left survivors frustrated and unsafe. Farage emphasises that the pattern isn't just incompetence, it's a deliberate failure to protect the public. He questions why ministers like Jess Phillips remain in charge despite repeated criticisms and accuses the government of prioritising politics over justice. Starmer watches, visibly uneasy, trying to maintain composure as Farage subtly hints that there's more being hidden behind the scenes, something the public isn't being told. As Farage's words hit the airwaves, the public reaction is immediate. Social media erupts with clips of the interview, hashtags trend, and news outlets scramble to cover the growing backlash. Citizens express disbelief at the government's handling of the inquiry, questioning why survivors' concerns have been dismissed. Farage points out that the silence from Starmer and his team speaks volumes, hinting again at a deeper agenda they're desperate to keep hidden. The Prime Minister's attempts to respond appear cautious, measured, but far from convincing. Every carefully crafted statement seems to reinforce Farage's narrative, and the tension around what's being concealed grows thicker by the minute. Farage brings one of the survivors on air, giving her a platform to explain the toxic environment of the inquiry. She describes strict controls, secretive documents, and being silenced from speaking freely, even about crucial details like the background of the offenders. Every word underscores the frustration and betrayal the survivors feel, while Farage listens calmly, letting the story speak for itself. Starmer's presence is felt in the background. His administration's policies and handling of the inquiry are called into question without him needing to speak, and the hint of a hidden agenda lingers, building suspense as viewers wonder what is being covered up. The revelations spark immediate tension in Westminster. MPs from multiple parties quietly debate the inquiry's mismanagement, while whispers of political opportunism circulate. Farage points out how the government's handling has created distrust not only among survivors, but across the country. Starmer's team tries to defend the setup, but the cracks are visible. Leaked documents, withdrawn panel members, and public frustration all paint a picture of incompetence. The audience is left questioning whether the Prime Minister is truly in control or if there's more going on behind the scenes. Another layer of secrecy teasing the viewer's curiosity. Nigel leans in, lowering his voice, and not for drama, but because what he's saying sounds almost too calculated to be coincidence. He points out that every delay, every withdrawal, every confidential process seems to benefit the same few people at the top. The inquiry that was supposed to expose failure has somehow become another shield protecting it. Then comes the kicker. He hints that this isn't about one minister or one department anymore. It's about why these investigations keep getting tangled up in bureaucracy whenever the truth gets too uncomfortable. Farage reminds viewers that this same hesitation, this same fear of saying the wrong thing, has been used for years to silence discussion about what really happened in towns across Britain. And then he turns his attention directly toward Keir Starmer. Nigel recalls how Starmer, during his time as Director of Public Prosecutions, had oversight on numerous cases that eerily mirror what's unfolding now. He doesn't accuse directly. He doesn't have to. The implication is enough. You can almost feel the chill in the studio when he says there are people in power today who know exactly what was ignored back then. As the clip rolls, the camera cuts to Starmer's reaction, stiff, uncomfortable, forcing a smile that doesn't quite land. The tension is palpable. For the first time, the narrative of reform and transparency looks paper thin. Nigel doesn't raise his voice, but his tone carries more weight than any headline could. It's the kind of statement that doesn't need evidence in that moment. It only needs silence. And the silence that follows says everything. And then Nigel finally connects the dots. The secret agenda he's been hinting at isn't a single document or leaked plan. It's a pattern. A pattern of covering for failure, avoiding uncomfortable truths, and protecting political images over victims. He says plainly that Starmer's government, much like the systems before it, is terrified not of the crimes themselves, but of what the truth might reveal about their own negligence. He explains that while officials preach sensitivity and respect, they've used those very words as excuses to stay silent, to hide statistics, delay reports, and dismiss survivors when their testimonies become politically inconvenient. Nigel doesn't have to name the pattern. Everyone watching already feels it. Then, with one final pause, he says it. This isn't about safeguarding anymore. It's about safeguarding reputations. That's the moment everything falls into place. The audience understands the implication that behind Starmer's polished image lies a system built on avoidance and control. The camera cuts back to Nigel sitting in silence, almost disappointed rather than angry. He ends quietly. You can cover the truth for a while, but eventually it shows through, and this time people are watching.